Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you all so much again for joining us for CQI for new funded partners. It's also can be a CQI refresher, CQI for new staff, CQI for staff that have been doing this for quite a while. Hopefully you gained some new knowledge today and you help to strengthen and implement the CQI culture within your organization. So if you haven't already, please just go ahead and check in the chat, share your name, your agency. Always love knowing who's in the Zoom room with us. So with that, we're going to keep going. So when you registered today for the Zoom session, I had you answer a question. And so it was really helpful to kind of see where everybody is at, see what questions were coming up for them. And so that's going to help me as we plan forward, just future sessions, what's on the top of your mind. I'm hoping we cover some of the questions you put in there today, but if not, know that I'm always open to your feedback, always really wanting to make sure that this is meeting your needs as we kind of continue on with our learning and training here at United Way of Greater Houston. So I wanted to provide just a little background into how United Way supports our funded partners, nonprofits with quality. So for many years, United Way has been focused on continuous quality improvement, so CQI. We did that through modules. And so those modules were really fundamental basics of CQI. Literally one was called CQI Basics. And so we also did outputs, outcomes, logic models, and then, assessment evaluation. We did a CQI for leadership. So very basic and fundamental knowledge. We also had the upskill module, which had a little bit of that content in there as well, as we were kind of transitioning into our single investment process. And then through that, we added in, we also, at the same time as we were doing CQI and all those modules and trainings, there was YPQI. So I can't leave out YPQI. If you are curious about that acronym, it is Youth Program Quality Improvement. I see some heads shaking. Yes, it is a system that is designed to help youth programs strengthen their practice and improve outcomes. Quality after school programming is critical to the success for individuals, their families, that youth. And so we focus on YPQI. If you are tapped into that YPQI network, please give it some love in the chat. And if you are like, Jessica, we serve youth, we don't know anything about YPQI, send an email, put your name in the chat telling me you want more information, and we'll make sure you get connected into that YPQI network. They do training, they do planning with data, they do assessments. It's a really great network because it's all evidence-based. So we have CQI, YPQI, and then over the past few years, we've really been expanding our CQI quality support efforts. And so in 2018, we created what's called an applied CQI series called Coffee and Quality. This is designed as a professional learning community for nonprofits that are tasked with implementing and overseeing their CQI efforts in their program and agency. We cover a wide variety of topics in coffee and quality. Hopefully some of you have attended these before, but we cover everything from survey design to cultivating and maintaining a CQI culture. I'll share a link later on in the session where you can access the past recordings because it's a wealth of knowledge there for you. It's definitely not just United Way talking. We have guest speakers. We also have agencies sharing about what CQI looks like in their agencies. So it's a really great resource for that. We also started Data in Dish. And so this really spun out of COVID as a way to talk about our data practices and how everybody was pivoting with their data management process, their systems in real time. And so Data in Dish continues to bring together the nonprofit partners to have open discussion on the latest data, evaluation trends, and CQI best practices. And it's especially related to the ALICE data as it is now, Data in Dish. Then our last extension of Coffee and Quality was the learning cohort. And so the learning cohort started in September of 2020. And so it provides an opportunity for United Way to deepen and strengthen our capacity building efforts among agency staff. So it's a learning cohort. It's designed as a small community of practice. We usually have about 12 to 15 people in each of the learning cohorts. We've run 3 so far, so we have a good alumni community of about 45 nonprofit staff. And the whole focus of the learning cohort is centered around data visualization and telling stories with your data. So they do a deep dive into that content over 3 months. And then really apply those skills using by creating their own data visuals and data stories. So we'll have a cohort again later this year, and we'll be accepting applications, but really just kind of wanted to take a step back and talk about how United Way supports CQI quality efforts as we kind of go into this session on CQI for new funded partners. I want to bring a little coffee and quality here today with us to just offer some ground rules. So these are simple. This is a safe space to learn and share. If at any moment you have a question, please drop it into the chat. I'll make sure to check that as we kind of go throughout. And then we'll also, if you want to use the raise hand feature, please use that so we can make sure you get your questions answered. But I'll have moments throughout where we'll pause intentionally. Keep an open mind and an open heart. You're going to be hearing maybe some new concepts, maybe some things that you haven't really applied yet. You've only heard them. So just keep that open mind as you kind of learn some of the concepts and terminology that United Way has for quality. And then also, as it is a virtual space, sometimes, you'll be asked to do different activities. So please just participate as you're able. It's an invitation, not an obligation. But I find that the more you just lean into the coffee and quality, the trainings and learnings, the more you'll get out. So hope today is a good 90 minutes for you. In addition, we also have our Teams channel. I know a lot of y'all are already plugged into there, but just bringing a little bit of that here. We have a page dedicated to coffee and quality where we share resources and knowledge outside of all those trainings and learning opportunity. If you are not in this, it's a public channel. So if you're in that channel for United Way partners, then you can have access to coffee and quality. But if you're not in there, just drop your email in the chat or send me an email and I'll add you in. So easy as that. All right, so thank you for those little moment to give you a little backstory and kind of paint this picture for today. But today's focus is on understanding CQI expectations for United Way of Greater Houston. We know a lot of different funders have different expectations, but today we're really going to focus in on what it means for United Way, and hopefully it has some benefit and some overlap with some of the other funding that you receive as well from different organizations. So today, we hope you will understand the value of CQI for your clients, your program, and your agency. We also hope you feel equipped to be an active participant in your agency's CQI system. Each agency is required to have an established CQI system in place as part of United Way's funding. And we hope that you'll be an active participant in that. That we'll talk a little bit more about that, but just remember that active participant, we really want you to take the lead on that. And then to be an advocate for CQI at your agency, we want you to take back the messaging of CQI and share it with your coworkers, your leadership, advocate for it, the benefit for it with your clients, program, agency. We really want you to be champions for it. And then we hope you participate in other trainings. So, we hope you'll also kind of keep it a regular to attend Coffee and Quality with us to continue your learning knowledge. So to do all that, we're going to define CQI today. We're going to share United Way's expectations. We're going to introduce you to some other terminology and then really provide an overall, give you an overview of the common metric structure, which really overlaps with a lot of that CQI terminology. So, all right. So that's what we're going to do today. Here we are. So we're going to talk about quality, but why are we going to talk about quality? So who remembers the Nokia cell phone? Anybody remember that Nokia cell phone, that flip phone? Some of these right here are bringing back all kinds of memories.
I have used as my first mobile.
Yeah, David?
I used to. I do remember those.
I remember that. I love that brick phone.
I love that brick phone. Yeah,
Back in the day.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah, all these phones. Yeah, just thinking
they doubled as weapons.
Oh, they do double as weapons. Yeah, Aaron, your hand's up.
Oh, I was just hands up that I remember.
Oh, good. Thank you. Yeah. We remember these phones, right? Though I couldn't find the phone with the bag phone. Do y'all remember that bag phone that they used to have? So I like this. We show this picture because the phone on the left dates back to 1973. So could you imagine today using that phone from 1973? Like maybe if you're a connoisseur of cell phones, you might be wanting to use that, but I don't even know if some of the technology capabilities would like link to it. But so the Nokia flip phone was really the headline of some magazines back in the early aughts. It was that Nokia, 1 billion customers. Can anyone catch up with the cell phone king? So how many of us have a Nokia flip phone today? It's not likely that anyone has one. You maybe have some, who knows? But really, many years, Nokia was overtaken by Apple and Google, and because it failed to understand the needs of its customers and the result, and so it lost its relevance. So of course, this is for profit, this is technology, right? Like they're always advancing, but we need to think of that keep that like lens of always advancing, always making sure we're meeting the needs of those we're serving as we think of quality. Think of using data to improve, strengthen the work that we're doing, whether it's directly with clients, in the community, so that way we can continually improve and meet those needs that our clients are facing. So I like to show that to see that we all can evolve. And CQI brings tremendous value to all of this. You know, it really helps us keep relevant and changing with the times. Clients' lives are improved by the use of CQI, by incorporating that, embedding that in the work that you do. You know, when we have time devoted towards the efforts, we're more successful. We see more success for clients. When services are client focused, when CQI can help ensure that we're keeping that client at the center of our work, clients' lives are improved. We have a more positive experience. And that ripples into the agencies. So when you have a strong CQI culture, the agency is strengthened. They're able to pivot more quickly. We heard from those that had strong CQI systems and cultures, they were able to more quickly adapt and pivot as COVID was coming in. And even in other times of disasters, they're able to take that, okay, what are we seeing? How do we change it? They're able to take that cyclical process and really help meet the needs at that point in time, especially for times of disasters. And then staff are critical to CQI culture. You do not have CQI without staff. And so your staff capacity strengthens as a matter of having CQI. That's what that brings. Staff are able to tell the story of their agency in a more meaningful way. Their technical skills increase, and it just ripples into back to clients, right? Because it's the people working with clients. So it's all brings, CQI can bring tremendous value to your whole organization and all the people included. So we're going to do a little self-reflection here for about 5 minutes. So we have a CQI scale that I'd like for everybody just to take a moment and complete. So you're going to complete it on your own. It's going to be a self-reflection. You're not going to have to share your answers with anybody. So I'll show you that right now. And so there are 8 factors here. And so on the 8 factors, for each one, it's a scale of 1 to 5, where we describe 1, 3, and 5. So your task is to, for each one of those factors, what do you rate your agency? Are y'all a 1, a 3, a 5? You could also be somewhere between a 1 and a 3, so you'd give yourself a 2. You could be somewhere between a 3 and a 5, and you give yourself a 4. But I'm gonna let y'all do that here, and I'm gonna drop the PDF in the chat as well. So in case you'd like to download this and do it, this is a fillable form, or you can just do it from this, this screen. I'm gonna give you 5 minutes. So it is 9:14. I'll circle back in about 5 minutes. So about 9:19. If you just joined in, we are doing a CQI scale right now. So it's a quiet 5 minutes, but I really want everybody to just take a moment and rate from your point of view, from your perspective, where does your agency fall along this scale, the 1 to 5, for the 8 different factors. So I'll give you a few more moments, a few more minutes to finish doing this. And sorry if you're having trouble downloading it. I'll make sure to email it afterwards so you can have the copy, but the screen also has the information. So just give you a few more moments. Hello to those just joining in. So we are doing the CQI scale right now. Everybody has probably another minute or so to rate your organization. You're not going to have to share your responses with anybody, I promise. Just for the 8 factors right here, where does your agency fall in your opinion? Are you a 1? Are you somewhere between the 1 and the 3? So you're a 2? Are you a 3? Are you somewhere between the 3 and the 5? So you're a 4? Or are you a 5? So for each of those 8 areas, and if you're done, total your score, because I'm about to show you the scale results. So give you another moment, 1 more minute. Okay, so we're at time now. I'm gonna show you the scale results. If you want to total your score so you kind of know where you're at, because it falls into 3 areas. So if you scored between a 40 and a 30, that means you are aligned with United Way's expectations for CQI. You have an active, formalized CQI process. Go ahead and give yourself a round of applause. Great job. If you are between a 16 and a 29, that means you're partially aligned with United Way's expectations of CQI. You have an informal CQI process. That is room to grow, room to improve, round of applause. You're heading in the right direction. If you are 15 or less, that means you are not aligned with United Way's expectations of CQI. You don't have an identified process. That's okay. That means you have even more room to grow. And I'm so excited that you are joining here today. And I am even more excited because we have an opportunity for you that you can request technical assistance. You can say, learning analytics and compliance team, that is my team, we need a little help. We need to phone a friend. We would love to talk to you more about this. We scored a little less. I know we can do better. There's always room to grow. So I put the link there. Hopefully that link works. And you can request technical assistance for your CQI culture. So just a good little kind of check in where we're at. And today we're going to keep moving forward. Again, we're going to talk more about the expectations, core components, and then definitions and terminology of CQI. So we're all in a great place, and we're gonna keep moving forward. So here's United Way's definition of CQI. When we talk about CQI, this is the definition we are referring to. It is the systematic use of data to improve the effectiveness of your programs and services and to communicate your value. For me, this definition breaks into 3 parts. So the systematic use of data, that means you have a rhyme and a reason. There's a process. A new staff could come in and really understand how you collect and use data. The second part is improve effectiveness. You're not only collecting data, but you are using it, and you're using it to improve the work that you're doing, improve that effectiveness, improve, strengthen, enhance, whichever word you might like to use there, but you're using your data intentionally. And the third part is to communicate their value. Like, it is great to collect data, it is great to use data, and we also want to be communicating about our data, communicating with our stakeholders, bringing it back into different groups, giving it back to different audiences, just to continue to enhance the work that we're doing with our data to improve our programs, to strengthen our agencies. So that is United Way's definition of CQI. It is a formalized, human-driven cyclical process. And I can't emphasize enough that human-driven. It is about the people in your organization. It is about the clients you serve, the staff that you work with. It is not about an expensive software system. I promise you, it is not about that. It's truly about the people and the value of their input. So it begins with service delivery at the top. And as part of service delivery, you collect data. And then your CQI team reviews the data. The team makes recommendations that are implemented, and then service delivery begins again. So it's important to know that CQI process is dynamic. It's alive, it's ever evolving, and it's okay to feel like you're updating your process, that you're making improvements, that you're trying to change things and enhance. It's okay to do that. And it is United Way's expectation that our funded partners have the documented CQI process. And we'll talk more about that in a moment, but we really value quality. We invest in quality programs, and so we want to uplift the work that you're doing through quality. So I often blaze through that cyclical process because I'm like, it's cyclical, it keeps going. Like, these are the parts. Yeah. But I just want to take a moment and really talk about these 5 components right here. So service delivery, that is the work that you do every day. That is the work you're doing with clients. It's what you're doing. And you're all doing great work. You're all doing different programming. So service delivery fits for all the different programming. Data collection. This is formally collecting data, information. It's formally collecting information as part of service delivery. So it could be pre-post tests, it could be intake information, it could be wellness assessments, it could be observing clients doing something, it could be them providing, self-report on something that they're improving or they're working on. It can take a variety of shape and forms, but we do want it to be formally collected. So really having a formal process for it. What does formal mean for you for that service delivery? Really taking that look, because CQI, the work that you're doing, looks different at each agency. And so we want to meet everybody where they're at right there. CQI review team, they examine or assess data results. This is really them looking at the data analysis and then bringing it into interpretation. CQI recommendations. So they're going to suggest or propose possible changes and to support improvement. And then they're going to discuss, everybody's got ideas, and I love a radical idea, but sometimes you just maybe don't have the time to implement that change, or it takes a little bit more planning before you can actually implement it. So you got to do a few more things before you can do that great idea. So that CQI team is going to help decide, okay, which of these ideas, which of these recommendations are we going to implement? And then what's the next step for that, for implementation? How do we put that recommendation into effect? How do we bring it in? And then it starts back over. So that is the definition of CQI and the definitions of the cyclical process really broken down for y'all. We're going to go into expectations and core components, but I'm going to pause right here just to see if any questions are coming up. So glad Erin was able to get that document to y'all. Thank you, Erin, for dropping that in the chat. Sorry, I don't know what happened with mine. Anything? I'm not seeing any other questions right now. Don't worry, we'll have more moments for questions. I'm going to keep us moving forward. Oh, yes. Thank you, Linda. What do people on CQI team need to be different from people collecting data? Do people on CQI team need to be different from people collecting data? That is a great question. And I'm gonna hold your question because we're about to talk about the CQI team. So thank you for that question. So that's a good segue. Let's just keep moving forward. So United Way has 3 expectations for CQI. Number 1, that it's embedded in your agency's culture, and that we see that through the CQI team implementing the cyclical process. Don't worry, we're going to talk about CQI team just a little bit more, but that's our first expectation, that CQI is embedded in your agency culture. The second is that agency staff participate. Kind of supports that first one, right? We need you to have a CQI team, but we also need staff to be participating in this. And it could be through collecting data. It could be being in the CQI team. You could be on both. You could be collecting the data and on the CQI team. But we really need staff participating in that. Also participating in trainings, participating in increasing their knowledge. We'll go into that a little bit more in the core components, but we want agency staff to participate. And then agency demonstrate all CQI core components. And what are those, Jessica? I know that's what you're asking me. So here we go to the core components. So we have 8 core components. The first one is that leadership buy-in. You should have support from your agency executive leadership to implement your CQI, to maintain that CQI culture in that environment in your organization. So we need leadership buy-in. We also need that dedicated and diverse CQI team. So kind of to Linda's question, yes, your person collecting data could be in your CQI team, but you also want diverse representation. So you want somebody, maybe a non-direct staff member, to sit into your CQI team because they're going to have a different point of view. You maybe want some leadership, some executive level leadership to participate. You maybe want some program level leadership. So it can really vary, but it needs to be diverse. We've also seen some organizations have clients or volunteers participate in their CQI team. We'll go a little bit more into that, but I just really wanted to highlight, have a diverse CQI team, but then also have a dedicated CQI team. So they should know, that person should know, yes, I am on my CQI team. And that helps, just really speaks to that formalized process of knowing who's on your CQI team. We also want you to have a formalized CQI plan that you update at least every 2 years. Data should be directly connected to the programs and services that you're providing. It's great that you're doing the work and you want to make sure the data you're collecting ties and links directly to the work you're doing. If you're giving out food distribution, I would really wonder, if you were collecting information about their library attendance. I mean, there's probably a link there, I'm sure, but we really need to make sure the work that you're doing is tied to that data you're collecting. We also want you to use your data to build upon goals and targets for annual success, to learn from challenges, and help, again, base with planning. Another core component is incorporate client feedback, input into the improvement process. Use research, implement best practices in your industry and your sector, so that way you can always continue to evolve through that, kind of on a more macro scale. And then we want your staff to continue to participate in trainings, whether it's through United Way or through other avenues. There's a lot of great trainings out there, but really helping them to grow and enhance their knowledge. So those are our 8 core components. I'm going to keep going. I see a couple of questions in the chat, and I think I'm going to get to a couple of them in the next slide. So we'll keep going, but I'll keep circling back to that. So I want to peel back unpack these 8 core components here. So leadership sets the tone, right? Leadership creates an agency culture focused on CQI. If that was maybe one of the areas on that scale where you're like, I don't know if we have buy-in, as part of United Way support, we are going to be talking to leaders about their CQI culture to find out, where are they with buy-in to this? Do we need to provide a little more support? And that's how we created the CQI for Leadership training that we've done before. And so we're looking to figure out how best to implement that going forward, so we can support that effort as well. So, and we see leadership buy-in really come in through a few different avenues. So it could be something coming from their mission or value statements. We also can see it in how they onboard and orient new staff into programs. Are we talking about our CQI process? Are we talking about our data practices in there? And then is it in our job descriptions? Do you have that you're engaging in improvement efforts in your job description? Those are some little ways we can kind of check in to see really is there some leadership buy-in happening? We also, and that can speak to really embedding, review the data and using data in your routine practices. Is that part of a job description that you're to use data to improve your program? Are you to review the data that you have in order to make changes or to be more efficient or effective or meet client needs, right? Like how is that coming up when we think of just buy-in to this whole concept of quality? There can also be some willingness, motivation there, like are staff willing to do that? I will talk a little bit about that just a second, but you know, we really want data to be used, reinforced, encouraged, and expected as well. And that also goes into devoting staff time to it. That we don't want quality efforts to be as other duties assigned. Like it really needs to be embedded in the work, embedded in the process, and having time to do that. We all wear multiple hats, but do you have the time to do the dedicated work, data collection, analysis, interpretation, having those CQI teams, really trying to figure out what works best for your organization, your program, on how to dedicate time to that, to resources, to maintaining this CQI system. And then engaging stakeholders. And this one really links into, you know, using feedback from clients, but then also using feedback from some of your trusted volunteers, board members, having a way to community members as stakeholders, really having stakeholders input as well into your buy-in for CQI. So here it is, the CQI team. The CQI team is the driver of your human-driven cyclical process. So every CQI culture needs a CQI team. The team is to be diverse in individuals representing all departments and levels within the organization to reflect the results that you're seeing, to reflect the data you're using, and to make suggestions. We also want the CQI team to meet regularly. At the minimum, you should meet quarterly to review your results and make recommendations for improvement. And then your CQI team needs to have enough authority within your organization to make recommendations and see those recommendations implemented. And I say enough authority because you're bringing staff together, you're dedicating that staff time to it, but then, you know, we don't want it to be just a checkbox that you're doing this. We want them to be able to make recommendations and see those recommendations implemented. So the CQI team is really tasked with maintaining that culture, right? So the key thing, and we can't say it is enough, is that we recommend that CQI team to be diverse, representing all departments and levels. So you have development staff involved, you have finance staff involved, you have operations staff involved, you have your programmatic staff involved. And depending upon your organization, maybe you do have a board representative there, or maybe they're reporting to a board subcommittee. Every organization is a little different in that. I think the key thing is that you want staff to be able to provide input. So if you have a board member in there, maybe that's not going to encourage a lot of staff participation. Maybe they're going to be nervous about sharing or nervous about talking. I've seen that with board. I've also seen that with CEOs. Maybe you don't want your CEO to necessarily sit on your CQI team, but you want that CQI team be able to report back up, share back with the CEO. So you really have to kind of take that lens to your own organization and see what works best for your culture. So having the right people on that team, and then being able to have authority to make changes, to offer recommendations and see them implemented. And finally, that team needs to set aside scheduled time. So I shared, you know, at least quarterly. We do see some people kind of embed CQI into monthly activities or embed that CQI team coming together every other month. Again, it's really what fits within your agency, your programmatic work that you're doing. So that way you can regularly review your data and make recommendations and then implement. All righty, so here we are. I'm gonna we're going to do an activity, and that'll give me a little time to look at your questions just to make sure I'm getting them all. We're going to do an activity. So we are going to go into a breakout room. So I'm going to give you, while in this main room, if you want to grab a pen and a paper, and I want you to write down the first 3 things, either a comment, a statement, or a question that comes to mind when you see this picture. So I'm going to give you a moment to do that. Because after you write down those 3 things, you're going to go into a breakout room and share your 3 things with the group. Just to help, you're going to have that Google slide. You can click that slide, and that way you'll have this picture when you go into your breakout room. So write 3 things that come to mind: comment, question,
Hey, Jessica,
curiosity. Yeah.
it's saying we need access to the Google slide thing.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All righty. There we go. Let's try that link. Thank you. Thank you so much.
That's it. Thanks.
Oh, perfect, perfect. Oh, great. Thank you so much, y'all. You try to get everything set up, and life happens. So again, hopefully you grabbed a pen, grabbed a piece of paper, opened a Word document, write 3 thoughts, 3 comments or questions, a mixture of all of that about what comes to mind first for you when you see this picture. I've got breakout rooms ready. You'll have about 6 or 7 people in that breakout room with you. So I want you to share in your breakout room your 3 things. So you'll have about 8 minutes in your breakout room. So, give everybody opportunity to share what's in there, what they've put here, and then we'll come back together. All right, everybody, any questions about this activity before I open the breakout room? Hearing none, seeing none, I'm gonna open the room. So you'll have 8 minutes, share those 3 things. People are going into the Google Slides, so I know y'all got that open. So you have that beautiful picture to look at. So here we go. See y'all on the other side in 8 minutes.
This meeting is being recorded.
I'm gonna mute some folks. Sorry about that. Thank you all coming back into the main room. Hopefully you had time in the breakout room to talk about your the three things you wrote down about this picture. So could have been a comment, statement, question. And here's where I'm going to ask for a little audience participation. When you were in your breakout room, were there any similarities or differences between what you put? Thank you, Jonathan. Hands up first. Appreciate you.
Always eager to participate. Definitely very different. Like, I didn't know that was a submarine in the background. I just thought that was like towards the set of buildings. But yeah, we had even different questions. Some of us were wondering where they were going. Some of them wondering where they were. Some of us commented on like the difference in the water, how you see a portion of it being calm and the other being kind of showing movement, direction. Someone commented on it kind of representing what can happen when we work as a collective, because you see, these technologies, boats that wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for the collaborative that happens or comes about from, humans working together. But yeah, it was interesting. You have some people saying it was calm, some saying it wasn't. So it was definitely emphasized the significance of perspective and how that can impact what this still image conveys to each of us.
I mean, do you want to co-facilitate today? That was great. Like, that is everything of that activity. Yes, I know. Yes, please do. Who was in your room? Thank you. Y'all got so much of what this activity highlights. But I'd love to hear from the others. Crystal?
Hi, yes, we were also trying to figure out what that was in the background.
Yes.
And we did have some people comment on the water and just how, I think it was Ms. Erin Martin from, I want to get it right, United Against Human Trafficking. She said, it kind of looked like it was rocky, the water a little bit. And that just kind of made me contemplate on just life and how the last 2 years have just been, so different and so challenging. And so many agencies are just experiencing so many different type of challenges, but also like similar as well. And we had somebody else talk about the ship and the structure of the ship and just, how much time it would have taken for someone to help build that. And, seeing it go into the sunset is extremely peaceful for me, extremely peaceful. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. Thank you. Maria.
Jessica, our group had a really interesting conversation. Most of our participants saw the image as a tranquil image, a promising image, and had very positive connotations. And I was the only one who saw danger. I thought it was a battleship and saw obstacles ahead. So I don't know if I'm just having a bad day or if that was there, but it was really interesting to see such different perspectives.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for sharing that, Maria. And we all take our own perspective into a piece of data when we're interpreting it. That is really what this picture helps to highlight, that we all see the same data, we all see the same picture, same information, but we all take it in through a different lens. And you're like, I see danger, and maybe that speaks to something else, is we all bring that in as well with us. We all bring in our outside world into our data interpretation and what's happening with our clients, what's happening in our community. Like, yeah, y'all, that's really important there. Caroline, your hand was up. Oh, sorry. Zulika. Hopefully I didn't pronounce that too much incorrectly.
Yes, you pronounce it good. It's okay. And our team, first of all, we all love the sunset. It's really beautiful. It brings peace, and the way the light is reflected to the ocean. For me, it says that at the end of every day, there is a new day. We should all be self-prepared and organized and be ready and be motivated and be waiting for the future in a positive way. The second thing that we talked about that was about the power of the water. While it is really calm, while it is not shouting, while it is not rushing, it can push out, and it can move the ship to this distance to go and camp. And also the things that we talked, the last thing that we talk about was the willingness and caring, being the care. It says that human, be careful, be caring about your environment, the water, the sun, the moon, the rain, the snow, whatever you have, the tree, whatever you have, to care about them, that in that way the herd can care about you. And the question that we all had was, hey, what is at the end of the ocean? Is it a building? What is it? Yeah, it reflects the peace and the calmness, and it motivates us to be self-prepared for a good day in the future.
For sure. Thank you for sharing. I will share the source of this photo here in a moment. One more comment. Alicia, your hand's still up.
Oh, I was just saying, I noticed that when I said what I wanted to share, I said I ignored the whole ship and just went for the peace in the sunset, but it's something we do with data. Mm-hmm. It's the elephant in the room is when the data is not positive.
Yeah.
So it's something we do all the time. I was like, I'm going to do, float your boat, stay afloat, peacefulness. And I just ignored the rest. So it's something we have to look out for.
You do. And hopefully that was you. And I hope other people in your group had other things to share, because maybe that comes into that beauty of everybody sharing their input and sharing their perspective. So you get the full interpretation of that whole picture. So just a little background on this picture. If you have had the pleasure of met or knowing Doris Moran, she recently retired from United Way. We're so sad. She was here with 12 years for us. But one day we were all just kind of chit-chatting, and the question came up of, have you ever looked yourself up on Google? And Doris was like, I have, I'm a tugboat. So this is a tugboat called the Doris Moran. And so you can Google Doris Moran and you can find the location of Doris Moran. And so this is one of the pictures that we found of the Doris Moran. And I still don't know what's in the background. So I'm sorry. We'll all have our own interpretation of what is that in the foreground. I'll do a little more research, see if I can figure it out, but that's the Doris Moran. And it could be heading out into the sunset or sunrise. I've heard it both ways. You take which one you would like. So hopefully this activity just gave a fun way to kind of really layer in. Oh, thank you, Crystal. It is the Doris Moran tugboat. Just layer in that anyone can interpret data. Anyone can take a piece of information and give what's their perspective of it and share their input. And that's what we want to see CQI teams doing. That's what we want agency programs to be doing with one another, to bring back into a CQI team, leadership teams to be doing this as well. We really want everybody to be a steward of your data and a steward of your CQI process. And so the other core component is a formalized CQI plan. And so somebody in the chat asked, do we have a template? Spoiler, we do not have a template. It needs to fit your specific agency, your needs. We did have a Coffee and Quality all about formalized CQI plans and kind of give some guidance on what needs to be in a CQI plan. It also highlights a couple of agencies who have CQI plans that you can kind of learn from how others are doing it. So I'll share that link in the chat after we're, towards the end, but wanted to respond to his question there. So the formalized process is that it's documented. It's a great document when you have new staff transitioning. It makes sure that everybody stays on the same page. We want it to be accessible to all your staff, to the staff that are working with your clients, data, like really making sure everybody has access and that it's living and breathing and it's not just a document that's on a bookshelf or hidden in a file folder somewhere that you're like, I don't remember where I saved that. You want it to be something that you're using. It should include the purpose and the intent of your CQI culture, of that systematic use of data. It should include that purpose. Why are we doing this? What are we collecting? From who? When? Where are we storing it? It has all those kind of parts and pieces. And all of those parts and pieces really flow into your process, your protocols, your procedures, your logic model, your data dictionaries. Those are great documents to help support your CQI plan. And we want it to be updated regularly. At the minimum, trying to update it every 2 years seems good, but we know in reality, things are kind of changing as your program's going. And so really, maybe taking every 6 months, we're going to check in on our CQI plan and see, are we still doing it that way, or do we make modifications? And that's just really being kind to your future self, because staff transition happens and you want to make sure that your staff are being set up for success and really see what your CQI plan is. With that as well, the CQI plan includes information about your data. Your data fuels your CQI system. So data should be collected that directly links to your program services and components. Anybody from anywhere could be able to come in and be like, oh yeah, you collect that data. You probably do this kind of programming. Like, it should be a real good link. Should pass the sniff test, if you will. Like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, because we want to collect data that's useful and that speaks to the work that we're doing. Because if it doesn't, why are we collecting that information? The data at the end of the day is information from your clients. And so why are we asking them that if we're not using it, if it's not speaking to the work that we're doing, the mission, the vision? And we also think data should be used by all staff. And I really spoke to that. And we know not everyone is a data person. I'll do a quick informal poll, drop in the chat if you consider yourself a data person, because I know not everyone identifies like that. And so I think that speaks to, if you have a lot of people that aren't really big on data, they're like, I don't want to see that, I don't like numbers. Taking a step back and seeing like, all right, how can we meet people where they're at? How can we help them feel comfortable with this information? So it's not about the numbers, it's about what the numbers are telling us. What does this mean for our impact, for the work that we're doing with our clients? So just taking a step back to really, see how can we have that data conversation with the staff, because they have the most incredible input. And we want people to feel comfortable with that, right? Being able to participate in those data conversations. And I really hope that activity helped to just bring to light like how rich that conversation can be when you get input from everybody. So the last set of core components are really around continuing your own learning, continuing your agency's learning, embedding that CQI culture across all facets. And that really comes up through learning and growth. So the best CQI cultures value learning. You know, research shows that an agency culture that values learning can be a key facilitator to using data for CQI. And CQI should be championed by, you know, we want champions across your whole organization. Yes, we want leadership buy-in, but we want everybody to be really tapped into CQI. We also want you to apply it, right? Apply that knowledge, continue to grow in how you're using your data to improve your program effectiveness, your own personal performance. And part of that can really stay true from just staying curious, right? Keeping that, you know, learning at the core of what you're focused on, not getting stagnant or stuck in the, well, this is how we've always done it kind of mindset, really trying to find that growth. And then taking time to reflect, taking time to learn new things, see how somebody else is doing things differently, just speaks to how we can really ensure that we see CQI embedded throughout. So those are our core components. I've gotten to quite a few questions. I know there were 2 questions I saw that came up that I didn't get a chance to answer. And so one of them was, how does United Way uphold agencies accountable for CQI? And is a separate process from reporting periods and requirements? And that's a great question. So we, throughout your funding relationship with us, we will monitor your CQI through your quarterly reporting. So we'll reach out and ask questions about your actual data, like the outputs, indicators that you're reporting. But then we also have a couple of narrative questions we'll ask at times to get a little more pointed about CQI. How are you using the data? Share an example of a time you use the data to improve a program. So we'll get a little bit more pointed, but I would say for now, it really comes from your quarterly reporting and then our engagement with you. So we'll go out and have meetings and have conversations. I know right now our regional community builders are kind of going out and meeting with different agencies. And so it's through those avenues that we're just learning more about your agency and also your CQI culture. And the other question I saw was, if only one agency program is funded by United Way, are those the only team members participating in CQI, or do you need to include other programs? And that's a great question. And I would encourage you to include other programs. Yes, your United Way funded programs, you know, those are the ones we're focused on, but it can be a benefit for all of your programs because most likely your program that you're funded for maybe interacts or, you know, is related to these other programs. And so maybe you can learn from some of those cross conversations with the staff from another program, with that funded program. So maybe wanting to take a closer look at that, but we are we'll focus on your funded programs, but always happy to talk about your other non-funded programs in this. That was a great question. So I will keep us moving forward, but there's always time for questions in the chat because we have a little more ground to cover, and now we're going to get into terminology in our last 28 minutes together. So we already covered quite a bit of terminology, so this is more just like a definitions sheet. We've covered a lot. We're going to now hit at a very high level the rest of the terminology, knowing that we would love to hear from y'all if you would like to have more specific training around any of these concepts. Your feedback is a gift. We've run these modules quite a bit before, but we know we can always continue to offer trainings to y'all outside of coffee and quality that are more specific to this information. So just keep that top of mind that this is a high level definition portion, and we can have more trainings later if you'd like. Logic models. I love a logic model. I think they are great. I logic modeled my son's birthday party one time, making sure I had all the parts and pieces together. But what does a logic model do? You know, it is a visual representation of the logical connections between your program resources, activities, and your goals. At best, logic models are dynamic. They're useful representation of programmatic work that you're doing and how it leads into those big goals that you have. At the worst, it's just this static lifeless document that's like, yeah, we just had to have a logic model, but it shows no connection to the work that you're doing and the outcomes that you're wanting to see for the clients you serve. So really logic models provide that like map of how you're going to achieve your program goals. Like these are all the things that are going to go into this so we get this outcome. They're often framed in like a if then or then what kind of statements. So logic models they can be beneficial for program planning, program design, to help understand like your staffing structure, even to know, do we have enough staff? Do we have enough resources for the work that we're doing? And a lot of funders do ask for logic models, just to be honest, right? So I'm sure your organization has a logic model for your different programs. I've also seen some where they have an agency level logic model. And everybody, they all look a little different too, which makes it kind of fun. So here's one that you've probably seen. It's pretty common. Like if you Googled logic model, this would probably be the first one that pops up. Oftentimes they read from left to right. So you have the situation, the priorities that go into the inputs. That's what you're putting in to the program you're doing. And it could be anything from staff to funding to the curriculum to whatever it might be. This one has here at the bottom, you can see space and technology. So yeah, they're articulating like, we have to have our building, we have to have a meeting room, we need to have the technology, maybe it's their client management system. So the inputs, the outputs or the activities, what's the work that we're doing, and then those outcomes. So this is one example. Another example that goes from bottom up. So this one starts with the inputs, the activities, the outputs, and then goes into the outcomes. And we actually used a logic model for how we shared our common metric structure. So you maybe have seen this logic model. We know we used it quite a bit during our funding process, but at the bottom, it starts with the purpose and the assumptions of why we're even doing this new second century vision, single investment process, all the shift that we've been making over the past 2 years. So it starts with that. What's needed? What's the inputs for this? What are the activities? Because it all leads up into that big overarching goal of individuals and families in Greater Houston, the opportunity to thrive. So it all leads up to there. But the next part of that is the common metrics. And so the common metrics for us are really those outcomes. So we divided those into the integrated client journey metrics and the service metrics that all lead up into that overarching goal again, creating opportunities for individuals and families to thrive. So that was the logic model that we use, because logic models can be great visual representations of what it is you're doing and how it's going to all lead together. And so that's where we decided, let's do this logic model. As our common metric structure was new, it was different, and it comes into 2 parts. So we have service metrics. That's data that measures the success of a particular safety net or integrated service. So the example of this is financial stability. We have 3. People increase their income, people increase their savings, and people are primed to acquire assets. The other component of common metrics is we have integrated client journey metrics, and that's data that measures client progress along the integrated journey. And so the example there is that we foster and support coordination between agencies in the journey to ensure services are accessible to clients in a timely manner. So both of those put together, the service metric and the integrated client journey metric, are what we consider common metrics. Check in the chat, so I'm going to pause for questions. So we have, yes, you're going to all get this afterward. You'll get the slide deck and you'll get the recording today. Any questions so far on logic model or common metrics? Not seeing anything. We keep moving us forward and go into more parts of the logic model, but also a few more terminology components. And so this is output. So program outputs are critical for improvement. So many years, nonprofits really focused on reporting outputs, and it's information to show the value of the work that they're doing. But over the past, 20 years, 30 years, really, funders are wanting to see more than just the outputs. They're wanting to see the outcomes. That's so what. So you're offering, you're doing this food pantry, but what's the impact on the clients? It's that so what. But the outputs are service focused, and they are the volume of work accomplished by your program. They really tell you what you're doing on a day-to-day. They give that measure of information. So an example could be 95 clients who retain their job for 120 days, or 250 individuals served during the food distribution in June 2022. Or it could be 136 clients completed financial education. So again, it's just really kind of telling you that service information. It's not telling you, well, what was the result of those 136 clients that completed that financial education class? Did they create a checking account? Did they have a better understanding of how to budget? Like, what was the result of it? We're just learning, just the number that are completing the class. You can have a variety of outputs. And I think that's what's kind of fun about outputs, is you can really kind of measure what matters. And that could be the type of clients you have. It could be some efficiencies, right? Like the average number that are completing something in a certain amount of time, right? So it could be average of, or it could be average of services. It could be how many are doing something in a period of time, over 2 weeks, 6 weeks, or over 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. You can really look at that frequency and what matters to your programming to measure that. Look at the volume of work, right? The number that we're doing, the number of things that are happening, the frequency, right? So the frequency of how often things are happening for your program, or the work that you're doing, the services you're providing. The world is your oyster when it comes to outputs. And so really, again, measuring what matters, like keeping that in mind, like, what are we using this piece of information for? Like, what is this helping us better understand? And to better serve our clients, like keeping that as your rule of thumb as you're determining your outputs. Outcomes, on the other hand, they are client focused. And so they describe the change in people due to the service provided. As you saw in those logic models, a lot of outputs can be a short-term, intermediate, or long-term. So again, kind of what is your program scope and what are you able to measure? Sometimes some long-term measures, like they completed our financial education class and in 3 years they've done this. That can be kind of hard to measure that 3-year outcome. So really trying to, determine, is that possible for you to measure? To see that level of change in the client when you think of, is it a short-term, immediate, intermediate, or long-term goal? The examples of outcomes we have, I'm very focused on United Way, and it is our service metrics. So you see them right here. You are funded in these program category areas. And so these are the outcomes. These are the service metrics that we are having everybody report under. And so I wanted to provide those there for you to see. Since, years past, we would have people select their own outcomes. Well, now we're more focused on these service metrics, which are the outcomes. So you can see how that breaks out for all the program categories. But those are for United Way. We know that your agency has other funders, that you have other areas. So just want to show that, outcomes can really be based on the change in knowledge, right? Increase in a skill, increase in attitude, modify a behavior, improve condition. You can think of it in those kind of behavior change, since that's truly what outcomes are about. It's the change in people because of the service they received from you. So for us, our outcomes, again, were those service metrics. And you've all reported SMART indicators. So SMART indicators are how we measure outcomes. Outcomes are a little bit more of the kind of the umbrella statement, right? People increase their income. Okay, well, how are we increasing our income? How do you measure increasing your income? Well, you do that through SMART indicators. So indicators are specific items of information that track a program's success on an outcome. They describe observable, measurable characteristics of change that represent an achievement of the outcome. So for example, a program whose outcome is about participants pursuing a healthy lifestyle, so they're increasing their well-being. Maybe we're looking at that through the lens of, they're decrease their smoking habits or maintaining the recommended weight and cholesterol level. They're getting at least 2 hours of exercise each week. So it really is what are we measuring that's leading to that people are increasing their health care, their behavioral health. And everybody has SMART. Everybody has their own definitions of SMART. This is what how United Way defines SMART. So a SMART indicator is specific. The indicator is clear enough that different people would measure the same thing the same way. It's measurable. The necessary information can be observed, counted, or weighed with reasonable effort and cost. It's achievable. The standard is not so high that the program participant can't achieve it without reasonable effort. It's relevant. The indicator captures what key stakeholders would consider the essential aspects of the indicator. And it's timely. The indicator is likely to occur often enough during a designated period to provide useful information. So I mentioned earlier that indicators are key to success in measuring the outcome. And why is that? We really need clear indicators to provide the information we need in order to measure that outcome, to know the impact on the clients, to know the success, what's the result for them because of this service they receive. So, want to be specific, and it's a little bit of an art to writing an indicator. I'm sure those who have been here for a little while, I see you, Alicia, in my window view. I'm sure you can speak that, you got to spend a little time writing an indicator, right? Like you want it to be specific. It needs to tell who the target population is and what we've accomplished. Measurable, like we need to quantify it. Can it be observed, counted, weighed with reasonable effort and cost? Like you really gotta you don't want to set yourself up to be like, how are we going to measure this, right? Like play to your strengths, be kind to yourself. Achievable, can it be accomplished within that proposed time frame? Like we're going to do this within 3 months. Well, is 3 months enough time? Time for the client to show that improvement, or we have the staff time to circle back to them in 3 months? Really looking at that time frame. Is it achievable? Is it relevant? Is it capturing what the key stakeholders would consider an essential aspect of that outcome? Again, that kind of goes back to is this relevant data to the program we're doing, like the program we're providing? Do they make sense together? And then timely, you want it to occur often enough in order to provide useful information. So we're gonna play a little game. Got some SMART indicators for you. I'm gonna get the chat open. There are no trick questions here, I promise you. If is this a SMART indicator? Would you say this is a SMART indicator, yes or no? Just populate in the chat. Patients schedule a first-time appointment return for follow-up and or additional care within 12 months. Is this a SMART indicator? Yes, no, not sure. Okay, got some yeses rolling in. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, it's a SMART indicator. Ding, 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 ding. Yes, it's a SMART indicator, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, timely. It's hitting all of those marks. Okay, let's do the second one. Students participating in an after-school program experience success when compared to other peers. Students participating in an after-school program experience success when compared to other peers. No, no, no. I see a lot of no's coming in, right? No, it's not specific. No, it's not timely. We're missing some key things here. Oh, thank you, Abigail. No, we need to define what success means. Big time, you need to define what success means. There's some stuff happening with this one. This one has a lot of opportunity to improve. All right, here, let's go to the third one. Clients complete job readiness class, become employed within 3 months. Got some yes, 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 yes. Oh, David Fernandez, a yes from you. That's gold right there to me. Okay, and it is, it's SMART. David Fernandez works in the financial stability space. So I felt very validated from him that yes, this is a SMART indicator. They completed that class, they become employed within 3 months. Oh, spoiler, individuals seeing a public service announcement gain increased knowledge about child abuse. Is that SMART? No time frame, right? Yeah, sorry, I gave a little spoiler to that one. No, it's not specific. It's not measurable. Oh gosh. I know, I'm sure some of our communication friends that are in the room are like, ooh, measuring people watching a public service announcement. Like that net is so wide. You can get some cool analytics from that kind of stuff, I'm sure, but to just know if they increase their knowledge about child abuse, that's really going to be a hard, smart indicator. And so it's not. So the fifth one, last one, clients who received utility assistance have not received a disconnection notice at the 2-month follow-up. Yes, is coming in. Yes. Yes. Oh, great. Yay. Yes, this is a smart indicator. Clients who receive that utility assistance, they have not received a disconnection notice. So you can, you have that communication with them at that 2-month follow-up about not getting that disconnection notice. So yes, this is a smart indicator. You can measure that in order to report under people meet their basic needs. So there we are. Yay, y'all did great. Yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you for that addition about this one. You can make it more specific as well, and which months and what dates. Yeah, you can go granular on some of this. And I think that's what really that CQI team can help as you really cultivate and foster that. We're going to look at this data and have conversations about it. You can ask additional questions to really better understand this. That example could be like, yeah, clients in the fall are doing better than the spring because this is all happening in the springtime. So we need more resources in the spring because of this happening. When you have those conversations, it just brings different items up and different things to light. And I would say that good data, once people can really feel like, all right, I have a grasp of what this data is measuring, what this data is doing, questions are going to come up. And to me, that means you're doing something great, because good data means good questions. So don't be scared of questions. I would just encourage you to don't be scared of questions, because that's where we're at now. We're going to ask another moment for questions. I'm going to pause because, friends, we've done it. We've made it through. We went through all of that terminology, that CQI definitions on logic model, common metrics, outputs, smart indicators. Again, it was a very high level. Sorry if we went a little fast, but this session is being recorded. And we'll also share the slide deck out afterward. And you have a couple of other opportunities to reach out. So for the last about 10 minutes, I just want to share a couple of resources and give you a little moment before you hop on to your next meeting, hop out to your next call, to just pause to reflect. So the plus sign is, think about, going back to that scale you did at the very beginning of this session and just kind of all that we've talked about since then. Write down, jot a moment, write down, what are the positives? What are the pluses that you have now for your agency with all this information? Maybe you're like, hey, we actually do this we do this really well. Take a moment and write down the pluses. Also take a moment, maybe you heard something today and you're like, ooh, we could do better here. Like, this is our opportunity to improve. Write down, what changes would you make for your CQI culture, your CQI team? So that's a little delta sign. So think of those, because we also have some resources, and I'm going to share those now for you. So I've mentioned a little bit about coffee and quality throughout, and we have quite a bit of those recorded. We have a great one on the CQI plan, so you get to really see what other agencies are doing with their CQI plan and know a little bit more about that. We also have a past session on CQI best practices, which is like a roundtable discussion with 4 agencies talking about their CQI team and how they cultivated it and how they maintain it. We also have one that we did recently about the strengths and challenges with CQI. And then we have one that's about data conversations with stakeholders. And that's about how do you have conversations about data. And that's another really great one to watch to see what are some different tools, some ways you can do that. There's quite a bit of others recordings, but those were the 4 that popped out to me that I wanted to mention today for y'all. And of course, so the other kind of moment for self-reflection circles back to the very beginning with, we're here to help. We want to support you. We want to be there to help you either cultivate your CQI culture, strengthen, maintain it. We want to be there. We want to be your phone a friend, if you will. So I dropped again the link to request assistance. And it can be a conversation, like we really are just going to meet you where you're at and see what's happening so we can provide some support. So there's that. So give you another moment just to kind of write down, what are the positives that you see in your agency's CQI culture or CQI team? What do you want to change? Or if you want to submit that form to reach out and phone a friend so you can set up a time for us to chat more about your CQI culture and CQI team. And feel free, if you have questions too, we're kind of getting to the end because I'm going to have one more slide to just share some information. All right, so for the end, this is it. Love your feedback on today's session. As always, your feedback is a gift, so please feel free to do that. I know I'm dropping quite a bit for y'all today, but we'll share all of this information back out to everybody who attended today, everybody who registered. So you have the slide deck, you have the recording, you have all the links, you have all the resources, so you can, grow your own knowledge, continue to learn, but then also have this to reference back. So I really am just so thankful that everybody spent this time with us today, this full 90 minutes, probably about 6 minutes and change, but really thankful for your time, your attention, your participation. It was so great to share this virtual space with y'all. Please, I'm still here for questions. We still have time. So if you have questions, I think I got to all the questions I saw kind of early on coming in, but please feel free. Yes, let me share again the link to the YouTube channel. So we have a channel, it's called Deep Dive into United Way's work, and it features coffee and quality trainings and some past data and dishes as well. Okay, and then the link to talk about, to request a phone a friend. This is the request technical assistance from the Learning Analytics and Compliance team. Any other questions? Please also take a moment to do the feedback form. I'm going to stop sharing. Again, really glad and thankful that everybody joined us today and stayed on and participated. We will, look at your feedback and continue to offer additional support and sessions and training around CQI, but I do hope you'll all join us for our next Coffee and Quality. Those meet quarterly. Our next one is on August 4th, and I'll make sure y'all get the RSVP link for that. But with that, we have 5 minutes to spare, so I'm here for questions, but I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for partnering with us, for all the work that you do in the community. Hope you have a great rest of your day and a great rest of the week.